Good morning, Chair Wally, Vice Chair Lujan, and members. I'm Connie Corona, Executive Director of the Public Utility Commission, and with me is our Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer, Haley Hull.
Welcome.
I'd like to begin by thanking you for your ongoing commitment to ensuring the PUC has the resources needed to support Texas's electric and water needs. I'd like to provide some insight on our requests for the upcoming biennium. The materials we submitted cover our baseline appropriations request and a few exceptional items. From those, I want to highlight a couple key points. First, our baseline request is the same as the 24-25 biennium, and our exceptional items address the ongoing growth in our workload, including both staffing and technology needs. I want to focus on two main areas today: contested cases and strengthening infrastructure resiliency and reliability. Processing contested cases quickly and efficiently is key to our regulatory mission. This ensures Texans have the reliable services they deserve and keeps our state's economy humming. As our caseload grows in complexity and in volume, timelines are compressed and we need additional staff to meet the deadlines set by statute and our rules. We currently have 262 full-time employees, up from 201 in fiscal year 23. This is 93% of our FTE cap. This growth includes 4 new teams: the Office of Public Engagement, the Energy Efficiency Division, the Texas Energy Fund Division, and the Market Data Analytics team. We've also added staff throughout the agency to address critical business needs. With regard to recruiting and retaining qualified and experienced staff, we've made significant progress since last session. Our turnover rate has dropped to 10% across the agency and to 2.3% for licensed professionals like attorneys and engineers. As a comparison, we saw around 30% turnover of licensed staff during the last biennium. Retaining this experienced staff has been key to supporting our work. On the infrastructure side, we expect resiliency and reliability to play an increasingly larger role in our workload. For example, there are dozens of electric CCN cases needed to site transmission lines as part of the Permian Basin Reliability Plan. Next, as you consider appropriating the second tranche of the Texas Energy Fund, it's crucial that we ensure responsible oversight of these taxpayer dollars. Last session's investment in the TEF resulted in a greater than expected response, and we anticipate that will continue. Finally, regarding technology, our requests aim to create or modernize systems that will improve transparency for you, for the public, and for our stakeholders. This includes funding for a case management system for our contested cases, a task that is currently handled manually. This system will improve data collection, provide greater transparency, and increase internal efficiency. We've also requested funding for an electricity outage mapping system that will greatly improve the level of detail we can provide to the legislature and the public during outages and natural disasters. In closing, we appreciate your support and thank you for providing us with these critical tools and resources needed to take on the work for our fellow Texans. Thank you, and we're happy to answer your questions.
Members, any questions? Representative Garcia Hernandez.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank y'all for reaching out to our office and coming and answering all the questions that we had and letting us know ahead of time what exceptional items that you were going to be doing. I know when we sat with each other, a real big concern of our district was obviously building on the resiliency of our grid, and so I appreciate y'all coming and answering our questions. So thank you for being here today and providing this information.
Thank you, Representative, and we appreciate the insights you shared with us as well.
Ms. Corona, I know last session we bumped up a lot of the resources that for the agency. All those dollars have been expended let me specifically talk about the staffing levels, because I know we gave some dollars on staffing. How is that going?
Yes, sir. That has helped tremendously. We were experiencing quite a bit of turnover, as I mentioned, on average around 20%, 30% for the licensed professionals necessary to process our cases. Those are professional engineers, attorneys, CPAs, that type of thing. And we've experienced not only a great improvement in retention, but a much higher quality of applicant pool, where we're able to select from professionals with extremely good qualifications.
And then so you mentioned that the turnover was reduced. Are folks staying longer? I mean, it's been a short period of time, right, since the implementation?
Yes,
Yeah.
they absolutely are. I would say at the beginning of last session or the preceding biennium, our average tenure in our legal department for an attorney was around 18 to 24 months. And I think now we're looking at something like 3 years.
Okay.
And certainly longer for the managers.
And then when you say cases, what type of cases are they reviewing?
These are cases related to both electricity and
Right.
water rates of various types, and certificates of convenience and necessity, again, both for water and electric. So that's siting of transmission lines or service area boundaries for water utilities.
Okay. And then these are all new applications, or are they re-applications?
It includes both.
Okay.
So new applications for a rate case, for example, an electric utility that must come in every 4 years to reestablish their rates, and then also interim charges related to the electric service. And then on the water side, the same types of rate cases and interim charges, plus adjustments of their service area maps and boundaries.
Okay. I know that we moved, if I recall correctly, we moved the water portion over to you guys several years back.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
right?
2014 is when we began processing those water cases.
Okay. How's that transition? I mean, it's been a while, but how's that transition been? Because you just bring in a whole new, I would say a whole new division, separate set of expertise than on the utility side.
Thank you for the question. It has been a steep learning curve, but I think we're getting to a good place right now. I'd say for the first few years, we kept the water cases kind of in their own division and processed them there. And after we got acclimated to some of the issues that were going on, we were able to start cross-training with the electricity rates experts and infrastructure experts, and that's gone quite well over the past 5 years.
Is the agency looking, and this, because I'm going to ask this, so this to the Water Development Board, is really looking at the water needs that folks in different industries, particularly in utilities, but also all these new data centers, these Bitcoin mining centers, all these high-use industries. Are we looking at how we're going to respond to that?
Yes, sir. We're actively looking at that on the electricity side, as that's part of our jurisdiction, and on the water side, we are in regular discussion and collaboration with both TCEQ and the Water Development Board on those topics.
And what are y'all? Do y'all have any preliminary findings, I guess, or observations moving forward with the growth, let alone population-wise, but from the industry side?
Well, we're working, as I said, primarily on the electricity side. We continue to work with ERCOT on load projections on the electricity side, and we now have a market data analytics team that is well equipped to analyze those projections.
Okay. And then as those high-use industries come online, we're looking at the capacity that we could deliver, let alone water, but obviously the electricity to these entities. Are we doing that?
Yes, sir. We're, as I said, we're collaborating with the other agencies that work on water, and we ourselves are studying the electricity side
Okay.
quite intently and collaborating with ERCOT.
Okay. On the technology side, some of your exceptional items, let's see. Number 1 was staffing. Number 2, case management system. Is this, I thought we gave y'all some dollars last session on some technology upgrades. Did we not do that?
Did we have Haley Hall?
Hi, I'm Haley Hall with the
Thank you.
PUC. We did receive some funding for technology last session, especially to develop a low-code development platform, and that will be the basis of this case management system.
Okay.
So we've implemented that this biennium. We'd like to build this case management system using that platform that we.
Okay. It states, case management system, 3.9 million for the biennium, rate regulation, legal, office of policy and docket management, compliance and enforcement, energy efficiency, infrastructure, information technology. And so you need 6 FTEs for that?
Most
Or-
of those FTEs are IT staff
Right.
that would help us develop that system and then to maintain it and enhance it ongoing.
Okay. I know DIR, I'm sure y'all work with DIR because y'all are, what type of relationship is that?
We have a great
Currently.
relationship with
Okay.
DIR, and they've been very helpful in putting together the plan for this system. They helped us reach out to a number of vendors that have case management systems of various types, sat in with us on the demos of various systems, and kind of help us put together the plan and kind of the idea of for the funding and the length of time we thought it would take to stand this up.
Okay.
And as a matter of additional context, that case management system was a sunset recommendation last session, and they recommended we take the current biennium to develop a plan, which we have done, and that's what we have before you today.
Okay. Obviously, your agency is very important. We couldn't turn the lights on, or the water couldn't turn on. So I just encourage y'all to work with us and let us know what y'all actually need like in the immediate term, so that you have enough resources to respond to, let alone industry, but the public that expects highly of you guys. So I appreciate y'all's work, and thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks for being here
Chairman.
this morning.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Harrison.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks for being here. I want to raise an issue that I've raised with you or other members of the PUC back when I was on the Energy Committee a few years ago. There was a letter the governor sent to, at the time, it was Chairman Lake, in 2021. Got a copy of it here. You familiar with this letter? Do you know what I'm referencing? Or
I'm not familiar with the specific letter.
okay, I'll read the provision that I want to ask about. Let's see. Probably take me 2 sentences to give folks context. He's referencing laws that were passed about 4 years ago. He says they significantly reformed Texas's energy and electric power market. While we did that, more can be done to increase power generation capacity and to ensure the reliability of the Texas power grid. To achieve these goals, I am directing the Public Utility Commission of Texas, which is y'all, to immediately take the following actions. And he lists multiple, but I want to read one. Quote, allocate reliability costs to generation resources that cannot guarantee their own availability, such as wind and solar. When it's been years now, when is the PUC planning to implement this directive from the governor?
We are in the process right now of working with ERCOT to identify the data that would allow us to allocate those costs and execute that.
It's been 4 years though. How much more time would you expect this process going to take?
I would anticipate that we would be able to complete it in the next year or two.
Year or two. Okay, so from the time the governor, that the legislature passed these laws, and subsequent to the governor issuing you a directive in writing, you're talking, if it's a year or two from now, we're in 25. That's 6 years to implement a directive from the governor. Does that seem That seemed like a quick timeline, an appropriate
It's not a
timeline?
quick timeline, but it is
Yeah.
a very complex problem.
Yeah, okay. A related question then, from, I believe it was SB3 the same year, required y'all to promulgate rules on the cost allocation of ancillary services. Again, I think it's been 4 years, and y'all have still not done it. Your study from, I think it was November, showed that wind and solar variability accounted for about 42% of our ancillary service cost in 2023. I think it was close to $1 billion in cost on that, maybe just slightly under. But because the law is not being followed, ratepayers, or my constituents, we're shouldering the full cost. So when do y'all plan to undergo that rulemaking?
I believe the prior requirement that you referenced is a part of that same allocation study.
Okay, so we're still studying the question.
We're still ensuring that we're able to collect the data to assign the cost properly.
So I'll ask one more question, then I'm going to make a comment on that. I mean, so what is your plan for completing the study on the single market clearing price for this year and for implementing the reliability requirements for generators by 27?
I'm not following
Okay,
the
let me go.
requirement you're asking
Yeah,
about.
I think we're running into the same road on all these questions. Y'all, the PUC, you're unelected officials, right?
That's correct.
There's no elected official at the PUC.
That's correct.
Okay. So I have a high-level concern that the state of Texas, just like the federal government, where more my background was, has allocated, or I should say outsourced, a tremendous amount of our core constitutional lawmaking responsibilities to unelected bodies like the PUC. And in this instance, I mean, the PUC, the legislature asked you to do multiple things in the 2021 session. Very little of it has been done. Should the legislature just sort of do this ourselves? Would it make more sense? Could we get this done quicker if the legislature just said, you know what, we asked you guys to issue these kind of reliability and firming standards, you haven't done it. Should we as policymakers contemplate just writing it into a law, put the numbers into statute, pass it off the floor ourselves?
We will certainly follow whatever law and direction the legislature provides.
Yeah. Thank you. Because this has taken a long time, and quite frankly, I think this is probably something we should just do because I don't see progress happening. On the Texas Energy Fund, because you referenced that in your testimony, and I think you almost sort of talked about it in the assumptive, or as if something was presumed that the legislature is going to make it bigger. So for folks watching at home, or for folks here that aren't as familiar with it, what is the Texas Energy Fund, and how much are we spending on it right now?
So the Texas Energy Fund was created by the legislature in 2023 to support 4 programs: the in-ERCOT Generation Loan Program, a completion bonus program for in-ERCOT generation, an outside ERCOT loan and grant program, and a backup power package. $10 billion was authorized in statute, of which $5 billion was appropriated last session, and the remaining $5 billion is contemplated and currently in HB1.
Wow, so we're talking $10 billion for this program.
Yes,
Paid for by taxpayers.
that is correct.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. How many projects have you subsidized with my constituents' money under this program?
Currently, there are 18 projects undergoing due diligence for the loan program.
18, they're just in the due diligence phase.
That's correct.
Are they all like roughly the same amount of cost, or does the cost vary widely between the 18 projects?
I wouldn't say it varies widely, but there is some variance there.
Roughly then, kind of what kind of ballpark are we in for the cost per project?
The total amount of projects under due diligence is $5.3 billion, so divided by 18.
Right, but okay. 5.8?
5.3.
Okay, yeah, because that'd be almost 6, and we didn't give you 6 yet, I didn't think. But so, as to the question, because I know there are people contemplating expanding this program, I'm really struggling with whether more taxpayer money is needed, whether we should have done this in the first place or not, because, as you've acknowledged, this is taxpayer money. So these are tax dollars subsidizing private projects. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And it seems to me, although I don't have data in front of me, but it seems to me of late we've had some cold spells. We had some hot times last year. It seems like the grid is actually doing a little bit better recently without these new heavily subsidized, very expensive taxpayer-funded projects. So why would we as policymakers, given the recent data, why would we put more of my constituents' taxpayer money at risk by expanding that program? Why would we do that?
As was alluded to earlier by Chair Wally, we expect a lot of economic and electricity usage growth. So that might be one consideration for continuing the projects.
Sure, but aren't there other alternatives that I think my constituents, Texans who are already heavily taxed, Texans are being taxed out of their home every day in this state, to consider more free market alternatives like cutting severance taxes, reducing regulations on all providers, reducing the burden on oil and gas producers, as opposed to just coming in with more taxpayer money subsidizing these projects. Basically, couldn't we also contemplate reducing taxes, reducing regulations, instead of increasing spending?
We will certainly execute whatever legislation or programs the legislature creates.
The TEF, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I want to make sure I'm summarizing what you're saying. The Texas Energy Fund, does it grow government or does it reduce government?
The Texas Energy Fund is a program that's currently underway by the state of Texas.
But expanding it would grow government, right?
I don't have an opinion on that, sir.
No, I get it. But whatever billions, and again, just as policymakers, just an objective question, whatever billions the legislature is contemplating putting into that program on top of the billions we've already put onto it, that's money that we could use for other purposes, such as reducing property taxes, right?
That money can be used in whatever way the legislature dictates.
That's right, including reducing property taxes, right?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, mine too, thank you. Couple just general questions. Waste, fraud, and abuse in government agencies is a very important issue to millions of Texans. How does your agency go about identifying waste, fraud, and abuse, and how much money have you saved during the previous budget cycle as a result of those efforts?
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
We have an internal audit department that works to identify waste, fraud, and abuse, and also works with the state auditor's office on those types of projects. I don't have a figure. I don't believe there have been any identified instances of waste, fraud, or abuse in the last biennium.
I haven't found any waste, fraud, and abuse in the last 2 years.
We have not. We've identified opportunities for efficiencies,
Okay.
but no waste, fraud, or abuse.
How big is your agency, total budget?
Our total budget is $65 million for the biennium.
Okay.
Just a little above that.
Texas law for the past 30-something years has, and y'all are a rulemaking entity, right? We've discussed your rulemaking
Yes.
process. You issue a lot of regs, right?
Yes.
Okay. Texas law for, I think, over 30 years has required state agencies to retrospectively review their previously issued regs every 4 years. Are y'all doing that? And what regulatory changes or deregulatory actions have you taken as a result of those 4-year periodic retrospective reviews?
Yes, we're absolutely doing that. And I believe we've processed on the order of 100 rule revisions over the last biennium
Okay.
related to that.
That's great. Can y'all get me some information on those revisions that have resulted from the retrospective reviews?
Happy to do it.
Great. I would love to see that. Thank you very much. I know you're asking for a lot more money here, and I understand things are more expensive and all that, but is there any areas, you said you didn't identify any waste, fraud, or abuse in the last biennium. Are there any areas in your budget that y'all have cut from last biennium to this biennium?
No, our baseline budget remains the same.
Okay. You're asking a lot in your LARs for salary increases. What are the pay scales? What's your lowest paid employee? What's your highest paid employee?
We are not requesting any salary increases.
A lot of new FTEs, sorry.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
I would say our lowest paid employee makes around $35,000, and our highest paid employee makes in the 250s.
Wow, 250s?
Yes,
And your agency's only about $60 million?
that's correct.
66.3.
$66 million. Wow. That is more money than the Secretary of Defense for the United States of America. Do you think your employees that are making more money than the Secretary of Defense for the United States has more responsibilities than the Secretary of Defense?
I think they have different responsibilities, sir.
Less, though, right? Objectively.
I would say the responsibility for the state of Texas, the electric and water utilities is a great responsibility.
Yeah. Secretary of Defense has about $1 trillion budget and over 3 million personnel. And y'all are paying bureaucrats more money than him. That's unfortunate. All right, finally, the governor's issued a couple recent executive orders, one pertaining to DEI. How y'all doing with implementation on that order?
Our implementation is complete. There was really we had no DEI programs.
Okay.
And we reviewed our documentation and website to ensure that there weren't any inadvertent references to
And you
DEI.
say, yeah, I've heard that a lot of agencies are scrubbing their websites before coming and sitting in those chairs in front of me here the last few days, which I guess is progress, provided the actual changes are happening and words aren't just being erased from websites. That's now my new concern. But you said didn't identify anything. What about, do any of your contracting or any of your contracts issued in accordance with HUB guidelines? Because you said there's no DEI you found.
No.
So none of your state agencies deal with any HUB guidelines. Like the comptroller directs all state agencies to have minimum HUB thresholds in your contracting. Are y'all doing that or not doing that?
We do not make any contract selections based on a business being a hub. We do report in retrospect which agencies are, which contractors are hub certified.
So the targets that are issued by the comptroller, y'all just disregard those?
We don't disregard them. We report as required by law.
Okay, so no determinations in contracting at PUC are ever made with any consideration at all on the basis of race or anything under the HUB guidelines?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Real quick, Chair recognizes Representative Collier is present. Representative Garcia Hernandez.
Thank you, Chairman. I just had one follow-up question. I believe in regards to the Texas Energy Fund, there was an entity, I think it was called AGLE, that was essentially, I think, earmarked for money and ended up being something that shouldn't have been done in the process. And so I was just wondering, I haven't been following as closely of whenever that happened, but if whether y'all have put something in place to make sure that entities who are not able or shouldn't have access to those funds are not receiving them.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate the opportunity to address it. So the initial round of applications that were selected for further review for due diligence did include AGLE Power, which was quickly found to be not an appropriate recipient of the funds and was dismissed immediately from the program.
Got it. And is there anything that y'all have put in place to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future?
Yes, we certainly have. We have revised our oversight. We have added staff to our Texas Energy Fund division in monitoring our contractors' work, and we work with them daily regarding their due diligence of these projects.
Some of the FTEs that y'all have requested, I assume, are probably also to help with that effort as well.
That's correct.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, members. The PUC allows for, and I want to focus my questions on investor-owned utilities. I understand on the water side, sometimes there's acquisitions of not so well-run utilities, or, you know, something might happen. Another much larger, with more resources comes in and buys out a utility, and there's there's sort of a transition before, there's an application process that they have to go through the PUC. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
Okay. In that process, the acquiring utility, investor-owned utility, has the ability to raise rates. Is that correct? That's as part of the transition embedded in their, I guess, acquisition application. I'm trying to figure out what the exact terminology would be.
So the terminology, I believe
Yay,
you're
to help a
referencing
small
is the sale
district
transfer or
that
merger
doesn't have grants.
process.
Right.
And we have a number of ways following that sale transfer or merger that we can set the rates for the acquiring utility on the acquired portion.
Okay.
And yes, they are able to select from rates that have been previously approved and are appropriate for the acquired utility area.
Okay. Are those Class A IOUs?
I believe
Or-
Class A and B
Class
are
A and B?
eligible.
Okay. And in that Class A, when they raise rates, you have the ability to kind of, is there a process by which the ratepayers get to protest that rate increase?
Yes.
Okay.
A ratepayer can participate either as a protester, which is simply a statement saying that they are in protest of the rate, or they may participate, if they choose, as an intervener, which is an active participant in the litigation.
And then how do the ratepayers, how are they aware that they have the ability to protest that rate increase?
The application that is made by the acquiring utility requires notice to all of the affected ratepayers.
Okay. And when the PUC determines that the rate that was incorporated in their application, acquiring application, they have the ability to enforce rules upon them that would prohibit that rate increase. And y'all have done that before, correct?
That's correct. The commission must approve the rate.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because we had an acquiring water utility raise the rates almost triple on ratepayers, and it was a problem in our area. So I just want to make sure that you have the resources, one, but you have the ability to, enforce any rules that you might be able to promulgate. Or I really wouldn't want to have to pass a statute just because it's much harder to do that. But do you have tools in your toolbox to be able to protect the consumer when an acquiring water company comes in and jacks up prices on ratepayers?
Certainly, and I would be happy to get back with your office on the particular case that you're inquiring about, as well as a general overview of the
Okay.
process.
Obviously, we live in my county. There's about 5 million people that live in Harris County. About 2+ million live in the city of Houston. Others live in small municipalities, but we have a lot of unincorporated parts of the city, parts of the county. Over 2 million people that live in unincorporated Harris County that have different water sources, whether it's an IOU or a MUD, or they have their own water well, frankly, and septic tank system for wastewater and whatnot. But we have an instance with a company that was going under, literally, a small utility. The acquiring company, that company was named Nitch & Sons. The acquiring company was called Undine, and and they raised the rates on my constituents, and so they, you know, come to me
Sure.
for a response. I and my team, we had to go door to door, literally knocking on people's door, telling them that they have rights under the PUC. And thankfully, to you guys' credit, you guys came out, your staff came out to this town hall meeting that was 400 or 500 people deep. Bless you. And so you had a staff member there. So I do want to acknowledge that, and I appreciate staff being out and then taking action, subsequent action. There's no doubt the utility needs some capital improvements to fix the system, but it was getting to a point where senior citizens and families were really, really upset about, you know, their water bills going up 3 times as much as they used to. So I just want to say thank you for that, but I also want to put that on the record so that we can have a discussion offline about that. Because my sense is that it's not just isolated to my area. It happens in other communities where an acquiring company jacks up rates on people, and, you know, they look to us for action. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for y'all's testimony this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.